Hey everyone, welcome back to another tier list, and today we'll be doing the films of Jonathan Demme. I'm not really sure how to pronounce his last name, but he is a pretty famous director. He made a few pretty big movies in the 80s as well as the early 90s. He's also pretty well known for doing a lot of music documentaries and shorts and things like that, and recordings of like live performances and stuff. So I'm not going to be including any of them in this list. As well as a lot of his earlier films from the 70s, which I haven't seen. So I've seen everything from the first film here up to Last Embrace. I haven't seen anything past that. So sorry if you're looking for them, but it is the main bulk of his filmography, though, from 1979 through to his final film, Ricky and the Flash. So I've pretty much seen most of his filmography as far as his feature films go. So we'll get right into it. So Something Wild is probably his most popular film from the 80s. It's a kind of romantic comedy, action, thrillerish kind of film a little bit with Jeff Daniels as a lead, and it's a pretty good movie. I remember liking it quite a bit. I'm going to put it in the B tier. I did watch this film maybe a year ago, but yeah, it's quite unique and fun, as well as getting quite intense in certain moments towards the end of the film. But it's a movie that you don't really know what's going to happen until it does happen, because there's a lot of twists and turns and things like that as it goes, but it's very fast paced and it's fun and enjoyable, and quite a good film. Next up we have Rachel Getting Married. This is probably my least favorite of his films, I'd say, and I just really didn't like this movie, to be honest. I'll put it in the F tier. There's not many films I put in the F tier, but I just really was bored throughout this whole film. It's pretty much about a girl who is fairly troubled, and she's returning to her family home for her sister's wedding, and the two don't really get along. They're quite estranged, and it just takes place over this wedding that happens over this weekend or whatever. I'm not sure exactly. I did watch it a few years ago, but I just remember being super bored by it because it didn't feel like a movie so much as a documentary or just someone recording the events of this wedding. And it was just really boring. Like, nothing interesting happened. It was like a typical wedding with a bit of drama and some good performances, but there was nothing to the film, in my opinion, that I felt warranted making it into a feature film. You've got Anne Hathaway in the leading role, but she was most of the characters in this film are fairly unlikable as well. So it also doesn't have that going for it. But yeah, like, I can't really say anything positive about it, to be honest. That's why it's in the F tier. Next up, we have The Manchurian Candidate. I wasn't a huge fan of this one. I'll put it in the C tier. I was looking forward to it, though, because Jonathan Demme, when he works in the thriller genre, he's usually pretty good. And it stars Denzel Washington as well, who's a great actor. But the film was just kind of boring, in my opinion. Like, it was okay for a one-time watch. That's why it's in the C tier. But from memory, it just wasn't that great. It was just an okay kind of film that could have been better. And again, it wasn't very memorable to me. It also starred Meryl Streep, who's a good actress, and she's always good in everything. And there was nothing wrong with the performances here. It was just the film overall just kind of didn't do much for me. And I know it's based on an older film. I haven't seen that one, but I've heard that it's better anyway. But yeah, this film was a bit disappointing, but not a bad film. Next we have probably one of the most famous psychological thrillers of all time, and it's The Silence of the Lambs. This is an easy S tier movie and easily his best film, in my opinion. I think most people would agree. It's a classic. It's one of the staple horror thriller genre films of all time. It's excellent. You've got a fantastic performance from Jodie Foster as well as Anthony Hopkins as Hannibal Lecter. It's just a very intense and creepy, disturbing kind of film. It's easily his best movie, like, by far. It's just an excellent thriller. If you haven't, like, most people have seen it, but if you haven't seen it and you are into that kind of genre of film, then you really have to check it out, because it's up there with, like David Fincher's early work, like Seven and all that. Just in that kind of era of early mid 90s films that were just really great psychological thrillers. There were a few that came out around that time, but this is definitely one of those top 2 or 3 even of that 90s era. But yeah, it's a classic film. It still holds up really well. It looks great. It's got great performances, great music, some great scares and visuals. It gets really intense towards the end. And yeah, we obviously got a bunch of sequels from this film, but none of them ever did any justice to the original. but some of them are okay. Like, I don't mind Red Dragon, but the rest of them are fairly average in my opinion. But yeah, this film is just leaps and bounds ahead of those ones. Next we have Married to the Mob, and this is quite a good film. I'm going to put it at the top. I think it'll stay at the top of the B tier. It stars Michelle Pfeiffer, and it's kind of like a mob action comedy romance film, and it's actually a really good movie. I enjoyed it quite a bit. It's another one that he did in the 80s, the late 80s. I think it just came out between Something Wild and Silence of the Lambs, but it was a really good film. It balances the comedy and the romance and the action and the gangster kind of stuff pretty well. It's just a fun, silly movie as well at the same time, but it is very enjoyable, and I think it's the best early film that he made through his 70s and 80s career up until he came to his pretty classic films in the 90s. But yeah, it's definitely an underrated film. Most people would put Something Wild above it, but I actually enjoyed it quite a bit more, so I'm going to keep it there. Ricky and the Flash is his latest film he made before his passing. It came out in 2015, so now it's like, even then it's still 10 years old, but it reunites him with Meryl Streep again, so she's in the lead role here, obviously, as Ricky. But it's a really good film. I actually enjoyed this quite a bit. It's another one I'll put in the B tier. I think I liked it more than I was expecting to. Yeah, no, it was just an enjoyable kind of movie. It did have some stuff in it that I didn't like in the latter half of the film. When she kind of returned to her old life, the movie kind of slowed down for about 20 minutes or so. But everything around that was pretty solid, and I did enjoy it a lot more than I thought I would. So definitely check that one out if you've been hesitating on that. But it's not great, but it is a good film. Melvin and Howard is the same. I'll put that in the B tier. This is an early one he did from 1980, I think. It was an enjoyable film. It wasn't anything amazing, but it was one of his early works. Probably one of his earliest, more notable works. Like, I think whatever he did before this film wasn't too well known. As far as a feature film director goes anyway, he didn't make that many well-known films up until this era. But it was a good movie. It was a simple story, kind of a slice of life story. Mary Steenburgen is in it in one of her earlier roles as well, and she was good. But yeah, the film was it was okay. It was a good, enjoyable time. Next we have Beloved. I was looking forward to this movie because it came out at the end of his 90s run, and it looked like a big epic kind of supernatural horror thriller film, which it is a little bit, but it didn't really live up to any of that for me. I'll put it at the top of the C tier. What it did have was good performances, good visuals, and some interesting sequences throughout the film, but the movie's about 3 hours long, and it didn't need to be that long. It definitely felt dragged through most of its runtime. And it wasn't scary in the same way that Silence of the Lambs is. It's a very different kind of film. But yeah, it didn't do that much for me. Like, it was okay again for a one-time watch. Again, it's too long though, and too heavy throughout a lot of the film. Like, it's very dramatic and sad pretty much throughout the whole film. Like, there's not much joy or stuff to uplift you at all in the film. But at the same time, being a supernatural kind of thriller as well, it didn't really live up to that expectation for me either. So it was disappointing under those genres and terms. But for a one-time watch, it's okay. Next we come to Philadelphia. This is the other film that I think is great in his filmography. I'm going to put it in the S tier behind Silence of the Lambs. And it's the film he made straight after it. And it's a very good drama film, just a straight up drama film, kind of like a courtroom drama as well, I guess. And it stars my favorite actor, Tom Hanks, as well as Denzel Washington. And they're both just at the peak here, like, of their performance and careers. This is the film that won Tom Hanks his first Academy Award, and well deserving for that. It's a fantastic film. It's very sad and very dark, and it has a sad ending and everything, but it's just so well made and so well acted. And the story, you really get to care about these characters and know them and their lives and everything. And for me, this is where Jonathan Demme just had his 1-2 punch in the early 90s with these two films back to back that were just kind of what solidified him as a great director, I think. Even if the films around this that he made never lived up to this kind of level, just the fact that he was able to make these two movies really puts him up there as a great director. And yeah, Philadelphia is excellent. Highly recommend it, but it is quite a sad and dark film as well. The Truth About Charlie is pretty average. I didn't like it that much. I'll put it at the bottom of the C tier. It starred Mark Wahlberg and Thandie Newton. I watched it a couple months ago, but it was just kind of forgettable and average. It's kind of tries to be a fun spy thriller film that's very light-hearted and fluffy and romantic, but it's just, at the end of the day, it was just okay. There was nothing special about it. There was nothing that made me think it was anything unique, or from a director like Jonathan Demme, who has made classic films. It just kind of failed on all those levels, to be honest. Like, again, it wasn't trash where I hated watching it. I enjoyed watching it at the time, but it's not a film I've ever thought about again or would ever watch or recommend to anyone. So next we have Swing Shift. This is another one from the early 80s that he made with Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell, and I actually enjoyed this film a lot, more than I thought I would. I'll put it behind Married to the Mob. I just really enjoyed the film. It's about a woman who has to work in the factories after all the men go away to war, and all the women who start working in the factories and taking their jobs, and just about their lives and what happens while their partners are all away at war and everything. And it was really good. I've heard that there's a better cut of the film, the director's cut, that not many people have seen. That's like much more superior to this version, but I don't care. I actually enjoyed this film quite a bit, and I would watch a director's cut as well, but even for the version that we got theatrically, I actually really enjoyed it too. And Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell in two of their early performances together were really good together. And yeah, it was just a solid film that I enjoyed. So the last one I've seen from Jonathan Demme is Last Embrace, which is a thriller film from 1979, kind of in the vein of like a Hitchcock movie. And I only watched it about a week ago because I just wanted to watch this one before doing the list. And it was okay. Again, it's a one-time watch film that I would probably put... we'll put it here in the C tier. It was okay. There was stuff I really liked about it, certain sequences and moments in the film that were really great. Roy Scheider's great. He's a really good actor, obviously from Jaws. And I did like that he was trying to do some sort of homage to like an Alfred Hitchcock film, which was cool, and that definitely came off in lots of scenes throughout the film. But it was also a very confusing and convoluted film. A lot of it didn't make sense when you start to think about it later on. But there was some cool sets and areas and things, like in Niagara Falls at the end of the film. That was cool. So it was a very hit and miss kind of film. Really good stuff, really boring stuff in the middle. It kind of just kept switching between the two. And it ended very abruptly as well. But again, it's okay for a one-time watch, like all these C-tier films pretty much. So that's it, guys. That's all the films of his I've seen. That is the main bulk of his filmography. These other ones down here, they're from the 70s, and I haven't really heard anything about any of them, to be honest. So I think when most people think of Jonathan Demme, it's more his 80s and 90s era, but I did want to watch a few of the things he made around that as well in the 2000s and late 70s and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's about 12 films. Again, he's a great director as far as these top two films go, and I do enjoy everything in the B tier. However, I wouldn't recommend really the C tier films, and definitely not Rachel Getting Married. But yeah, that's about it. So let me know what you guys thought of this ranking down below, and if you like this guy's films too. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye.